Welcome to Leading with Curiosity. Command and control leadership is dead. We interview leaders, entrepreneurs, and executive coaches challenging old paradigms and fostering cutting-edge leadership. Here's your host, certified executive coach, Nate Leslie.
Whether you're a leader, parent, high performer, we can probably all admit it's easy when it's easy. But what about when it's not? What about when it's challenging, when you're really tested? You know, you have plan A and suddenly you realize plan A is out the window and you got to go to plan B. The skills that you rely on in those moments can be learned. And the more aware we are of them, the more we can do that mindset, the more we can do something about it. My guest today is a mental performance coach. He's worked with the Houston Texans, the Seattle Mariners, Stanford University, Microsoft, the FBI. He's a fellow Canadian, now living down in the Seattle area. Chupik, welcome to Leading with Curiosity.
Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this podcast and just seeing where the conversation will take us.
Well, in our pre-call, you said, Nate, motivation's overrated. And I said, hang on, there's our hook right there. Motivation's overrated. Tell us what you mean about that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, motivation's a feeling. And if you're feeling motivated, then it's easier to sort of kick your body into gear and exercise that discipline that you so badly want. However, because motivation wanes, there's got to be more of a stable fuel to be able to help us be the performers that we want to be. And so that stable fuel to me is self-leadership. So if someone can be self-led, even when they're not motivated, they're going to run laps around the people who are just going to wait till they're
waiting for someone else to motivate us versus self-leadership, that waiting for the motivation, whether it's in an organization or, I come from a sport background. Those are excuses, aren't they, for waiting for someone else to motivate us?
Yeah, it's called the locus of control. So if you have an external locus of control, you're waiting for outside stimuli to be able to help you find the motivation to do something. However, if we can change the locus of control to an internal locus of control, then you affect your world. And so you're not so worried and not so controlled by the roller coaster of events or emotions that take place during the day. But if we can get you to be internally motivated or have that locus of control and be self-led, then all of a sudden you get to determine the success of your day, which is far more stable and actually puts you in a far better position to succeed. Because in my world, or at least in the sports world, you can't control an outcome, but you can always put yourself in the best position to succeed. Putting yourself in the best position to succeed, I think, is really the pinnacle of mental performance, because you can't control that outcome. You can throw the best pitch in the world or have the best shot in hockey or whatever it is and it not go in, or throw that best pitch and it get hit for a home run and you lose the game. In fact, recently I was just watching a Seattle Mariner game, and Cal Raleigh hit this pitch way out of the strike zone for a home run, and Seattle ends up winning. And as a pitcher, you're just shaking your head like, what do I need to do to strike this guy out?
Yeah.
So putting yourself in the best position to succeed is crucial. And those are decisions just to be made. You don't have to be motivated to do those.
You just said determine the success of your own day. I love how short term. I love how that choice of the word day, not year, not life. Tell me about the day-to-day process of having a strong, resilient mindset.
Yeah, it's something that I call to win the day. And it's an exercise where I have my clients write down 5 or 7 things. And yes, that's intentional. 5 or 7 things that you can do every day to put yourself in the best position to succeed. So you get to choose them. They're uniquely you. I call it identity-based performance. So it really is a reflection of your identity. But if you get to choose those 5 or 7 things, and they're completely controllable by you, then you are putting yourself in the best position to succeed. So for example, if you say every morning I like to have a quiet time where I can meditate or pray or be quiet or practice solitude or mindfulness, then if that puts you in the best position to succeed every day, then you should absolutely do that. Some people say, I like to listen to music in the morning. Then you should absolutely do that. If you like to dance in the morning by yourself, then you should do that. Whatever it is that puts you in the best position to succeed that day is what you want to do on a regular, consistent basis. Listen, if you can stack the deck with aces, why not do it? So for some people, or at least like one of mine, is getting 7 hours sleep. If I can get 7 hours sleep, puts me in the best position to succeed every single day. For me, having a quiet time, I have blue sky time where I'm a visionary. And so if I'm setting aside 15 minutes of my day to just dream, and then my next 15 minutes is putting that dream, like living out that dream and taking an action step to accommodate that dream, you never know what you're capable of. It's really quite amazing. And so the reason why it's 5 or 7 is because it's an odd number. And if you do, let's say you choose 5 things, if you do 3 of them throughout the day, then you
Nice.
won the
Okay.
day.
Best of 5, best of 7.
Best
All
of
right.
5 and best
Basketball
of
or
7.
hockey? Take your pick, right? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And
Okay.
the reason why we do that is because we want you to put W's on the calendar.
Yeah.
And if you put together multiple W's on the calendar, then you've created some momentum. And if you have momentum and you've created that, let's say 2 or 3 days in a row where you're winning them, now you have like a winning streak. And a winning streak is incredible because, I mean, just the feeling of having that momentum from a winning streak is really powerful. It's really amazing to live your life constantly in winning streaks, and you just feel so differently about your life, and you're much more courageous, emotionally regulated, being able to handle difficult or challenging situations, and being able to dream. So yeah, it's really about creating the system and process where you can have that internal locus of control and you don't have to be motivated to do them. For example, I went to the gym this morning. I usually, I'm up at around 4 a.m. and I will go to the gym and I'm there by 5, but I practice my mindfulness and quiet time before. But if I'm at the gym by 4:45 and I'm ready to go, do I have to feel like going? Absolutely not. Does my 5 p.m. self really appreciate the fact that my 4 a.m. self went to the gym? Of course it does. Did I feel motivated? No, but I reaped the benefit of that all day long. So for me, even to do these things mechanically puts you in the best position to succeed. Literally changes your physiology and your hormonal response to things.
So a couple minutes into this, Gary, a listener could turn this episode off right now and they already have one free actionable thing that they can take, and that's win the day. Pick 5 or 7. Choose, not let someone else determine for you. 5 or 7 things that you can do today to win the day. Here's my offer to you. This is not a virtual background. This is log cabin walls. I'm in a 12-bedroom log cabin at a high-performance overnight camp that I'm part owner of on Vancouver Island, and I'm with a group of high-performance hockey coaches here for the month, actually. On our whiteboard, I'm going to give them the win the day as tomorrow morning. So you're already spreading your ideas to a group of high performers here who are always looking for ways to get the competitive advantage for themselves, but also feel good about what they're doing. So I've already got my takeaway as well. You and I have this sport background, including even in the hockey world. Not too many of my guests are actually from the hockey world. Mental performance coach. For some listeners, that's hard to define. Maybe they've heard of it. Maybe they have a lot of experience in it. But you're also, like me, trained as an ICF, an International Coach Federation coach, where we, in that role of coach, take the hat of having the answers for people off and really explore where they're at. Your unique blend as a mental performance coach focused on mindset in your business, when you're working with your ideal client, how do you manage that? Things like, here's an idea, here's some exercises, versus meeting those clients where they're at with that true sort of ICF mindset of let's talk about whatever you need to talk about.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I've created this thing called the mental performance bridge assessment. And there's 4 pillars and there's pieces of the bridge that are in between the 4 pillars. And I don't know, I just sat down one day and I was intrigued by the idea of mental health and how do I help people progress in their mental health. And I came up with this visual that I really appreciate because it's very helpful to me. So the first pillar on the far left is crisis. And a lot of times when we help an athlete or help somebody in business that they're experiencing a crisis, think of it like someone shouting through a bullhorn and they're in crisis and they need help. So there's a lot of athletes that are there. There's a lot of people in business that are there. Or maybe you're neither an athlete nor a business person and you're just out there and you're experiencing some type of crisis. And the volume on that particular issue is really loud. And so our job is to listen well and ask questions and help someone through that crisis. But what we're ultimately doing is we're helping them manage the crisis. And if you do that really well, then you can get to the coping pillar. And so we're giving them tools to learn how to cope. And then once we give them those tools and give them ideas of what they can do to cope with that particular crisis, we can move them on to the thriving pillar. And that thriving pillar is really exciting because all of a sudden they start to optimize or maximize the coping skills. And they were like, hey, wait a minute, this stuff really works. And if I just practice or tweak these things, they're even more helpful to me. And then the final pillar is what I call the transcend or elevate pillar, where now you're living on a different plane than everybody else. You're living above the fray, you're living above the clouds to that elite performance. And as I think about mental health, I think it's one of the greatest tragedies in our world that most mental health stops at the coping pillar. And that focus is constantly on coping, and the strategies are sort of focused on that coping, but we don't necessarily work really hard at the thriving and elevating pillars. And I think it's a real mistake because if where your focus goes, your energy flows. And if you're focused on the coping and you feel like you're doing pretty good, but you end up staying there. And I think there's so much more to mental health than just simply.
You know what? Yeah, it's like that second pillar, coping. I just pictured as you stay there, it means that crisis or what you're going through sort of is lingering, whether it's in thoughts or it's still on your mind, but passing through that, stepping over that gap from one pillar to the next into that thriving space. It's not that you're ignoring the crisis or what was hard, but you're almost like letting it pass through you and moving on to a new brighter future rather than maybe dragging some dark clouds with you. Is that kind of what happens?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's interesting. Like, let's say, for example, in the first responders world for FBI agents, the more that they talk about their crisis and the more that they process it, the worse that it gets. And so at some
Yeah,
point
okay.
you kind of got to leave it behind in order for you to move forward. And so it really just changes the focus of whatever it is that you're going through. So you're almost distracting yourself with really good things. It's like being in business. If you constantly focused on the fires, it'd be pretty depressing. Like the way that you run your business would be pretty depressing. However, if you're focusing on moving the vehicle forward of your business, then you kind of go, oh yeah, no, there's a lot of new territory that we can take over here. And there's the sites are beautiful and the journey is a lot of fun, but you just sort of keep at bay whatever crisis that was going on. You sort of keep it at bay and you distract yourself with other things. And so, in other words, for me, it's like looking through the windshield of a car. So if you're constantly focused on the crisis, you're kind of looking backwards. You're looking through the rearview mirror. But how many of us know that it's difficult to drive a car constantly looking at the rearview mirror?
Yeah.
And so you have side view mirrors. And I think those are really powerful because that's where you're presently at. And so I think glancing at your rear view mirror and checking your side view mirrors from time to time is really valuable. But I think if you really want to move forward, you really got to look through the windshield. So if you want to overcome that crisis or those things that you cope with, you look through the windshield.
I really like that metaphor. And you mentioned a few minutes ago where your focus goes, your energy flows. So if you continue to focus on that trauma, that thing that you've experienced, then it stays there. And it's dangerous driving through the rearview mirror. So that it's not skipping over it though, is it? It's like the coping phase has to happen. It's letting yourself, I think this is a recent episode with another guest, like letting yourself feel all of the emotions connected to whatever the crisis was as a part of the process and not staying there.
Great. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for scheduling your emotions. So oftentimes an athlete will evaluate their performance after, let's say, a Sunday night after a loss. Well, when's the worst time to evaluate your performance? I mean, the whole point of evaluation is to get better, right? It's to notice things and improve on things. But, doing it after a loss when you're already very emotional and have a lot of negative emotional feelings about things, it's just not the time to do that. But on a Monday morning, as you watch film, that might be the time to schedule your emotions, or even on your way to, either you're driving to the evaluation or you're thinking about schedule your emotions to feel them at the most opportune time for you.
There's a listener familiar with the Leadership Circle 360 from Bob Anderson. universal model of leadership, they talk a lot about creative leadership or reactive leadership. The more often we can be creative, the more effective. Reactive can be effective, but it's less effective and it's more draining. So my comparable there is right after that game. Okay, is there zero value in reviewing the tape after the game? No, but Monday morning, more value. So the reaction, oh, let's see the tape. Let's see the tape. We just screwed that up. Let's see the tape. You're filled with this reactive response. Not 0% effective, but not 100% effective, right? So with time, you shift into that, okay, let's be creative about what we can do to improve for the next game.
Yeah. I think it to be empathetically aware of the emotions in the moment when you have a loss, let's say. And I know you know this as an athlete. It's like, yeah, you do want someone to acknowledge the feelings that you have or the feeling in the room. Like I think that empathetic acknowledgement is really, really important. But you just can't live there and you don't want it to really linger. Like sometimes here's a good example. Like sometimes my wife and I know it's rare, but sometimes my wife and I will have a disagreement about something and our emotions are involved. But before I leave my home office for the day, I'll say, hey, listen, I know you're upset with me. I know I'm upset with you. However, when I come back home, can we talk about this?
Nice.
And just that simple sentence changes the entire dynamic of the day. And if you're involved in any type of significant relationship over a period of time, you just know that's such a positive way to think through or at least invite a conversation when you come home because if you don't, you can slam a door and it'll affect your work life and affect that different domains of your life, whether it's your craft or your business or whatever it is. And it's just hard to make it through the day because you got to come home to something that's going to be unpleasant. But if you've left it with, you know what, we can address this. We're going to be okay. And I want to make this right. Yeah.
Wait,
There's
so you're
another way
acknowledging,
of postponing your emotions.
so you're saying that just because you and I work in the leadership development space, you mean we aren't perfect, leaders aren't perfect and don't have all the answers? What? You have challenges at home sometimes, Gary? Wow. Okay. Hey, cool. Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've learned that asking good questions are the magic fairy dust
Sure.
to
Yeah.
conflict, right? Like, hey, what did I do that
Yeah.
upset you? Or
You know,
how can we work this out?
I'm looking at my 4 pillars that I drew from your conversation earlier, and it's like that space in the day between when you're leaving the house just to say, I know there's a gap here, but let's wait. And I know we can do this. I think that's a creative move. It's not a reactive move. Reactive is, we got to talk about this right now. And acknowledging it is also creative and bold and courageous. And then creating that space and then revisiting it later. You're probably halfway to resolution.
Yeah,
I
it
don't know what the
really is.
date
And you're
is.
not telling your spouse that we're going to do this. We
Yeah.
might say, hey, would it be okay if,
Yeah.
or would you mind if we
It's an
did this?
invitation, right? Yeah. Yeah. In doing our research for this episode, I came across an interesting article. Actually, it's about being proactive and responsive rather than reactive. So here's the segue. I think you wrote it about 5 years ago. So for the listener, I'm just going to recap 6 ways to cultivate an elite mindset based on an article you wrote. 1, top of the list. Well, let me set it up a little further. High performers and elite athletes build confidence and lower anxiety by balancing proactive and responsive mindset and avoiding the reactive. Proactive is about taking initiative and preparing for challenges, while responsive is about adapting to situations as they happen. So here's the 6, according to Gary. I love that the first one's on here. Limit social media. 2, decide what you really want. 3, schedule your feelings. I got questions about that one. 4, being driven by your convictions and principles. Love that. I see the word values there for me. 5, commit yourself to goals, habits, and or routines. And 6, create new neural pathways through healthy self-talk. We could do an entire episode on every one of those, Gary. Let's see if you can give us the subheadline to each of those in about a minute each. Does that sound good? Okay. So here's the second free structured approach, free giveaway in today's episode for the listener. 6 ways to cultivate an elite mindset, focusing on proactive and responsive mindsets. 1, limit social media in under a minute?
Yeah, it's quite simple. The very first thing we do when we wake up in the morning, if we go to our phone, we are literally reinforcing our tendency to react to things, and we literally disengage our decision making processes for the day. And so it's like, well, now if we look at our social media or at our email, they're all reactionary based that we can do very
Yeah.
little with in the moment. So yeah, and the thought of like reinforcing a negative routine is so hard. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really mind blowing how easy that is to do,
Yeah.
right? And so it's just sort of teaching us our response, and instead of being proactive.
Number 2, decide what you really want, knowing the difference between what you want and what you really want.
I don't know about you, Nate, but there's not much sounds better than watching a hockey game with a drink and eating my favorite pizza. And if I could think about what I want, I would say that. But if you said to me, Gary, what do you really want? Well, I want a generational impact in people's lives. And there's those things are so diametrically opposed. But the problem is that we spend 80% of our time chasing the things we think we want versus what we really want. And if we could reverse that to spend 80% of the time chasing after what we really want, we would live incredibly rich and fulfilling lives.
Right. Saying no to what we want so we can say yes to what we really want. Number 3, schedule your feelings. Instead of letting them control you, decide ahead of time when you'll address them so that it's the right time.
Yeah. So there are some people who are morning people. There are some people who are night people. And why not choose to feel whatever emotions you're feeling when you are best able to handle them? So you might either schedule or postpone your feelings so that you can hear yourself feel and hear yourself think. And then you can
Mm.
choose your response to those things.
Mm. Almost like address it when you're your most creative or when you're at your best, not at your
Exactly.
worst. Ooh, okay. Glad I asked. I like that one. Being driven by your convictions and principles.
Yeah, and those are a reflection of your identity. And so to be able to live out your identity on a daily basis anchors you to who you are and not to something or someone else.
I mentioned the word values. I hear like core values. What are my non-negotiables? Again, it's connected. It's correlated to what is most important for me, not what others think I should
Yeah, and
want. Right?
doesn't the word core in Latin mean close to the heart? Like these are things that are close to my heart.
Sure. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Number 5, commit yourself to goals, habits, and routines. Oh, there's the word. Take responsibility for your actions.
Yeah, I know people have a visceral reaction to the word habits or discipline or those kinds of things, but I just like to use the word rhythms. So what
Okay.
rhythms can you place in your life that put you in the best position to succeed?
Nice. And finally, create neural pathways through healthy self-talk.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Nobody talks to you more than you do. And so
I love that. Okay. Oh, good.
And so to be kind to yourself and make sure that you're not shaming yourself, which many of us do in this day and age, because when we look at somebody on social media or we see another, let's say someone else in business that's killing it, you just tend to feel like, oh, what's wrong with me? But there's a phrase that I like to use that I have found that's so powerful that it has changed my entire perspective on getting back on my horse and riding, which is come on. So when we've fallen or when we've done something that discourages ourselves or we feel bad about ourselves, the invitation is there to just come on back. Come on back to your values. Come on back to your identity. Come back to who you are. Just come on back.
Reminds me of a part of meditation, of Buddhist philosophy. I think they call it vipassana, but you have these negative thought gremlins, like the movie The Gremlins from the 80s, right? That we grew up with, where the negative thoughts, that self-talk is just creeping in, and acknowledging, instead of fighting it, acknowledge that they're there. I made this mistake once, and it kind of haunts me once in a while. You find yourself punching the pillow, like, I can't believe I said that thing. I was misunderstood. There it is again. There's that gremlin again. Acknowledge that it's there. My version is let it pass through me. What you're saying is like, come on back to who you know you are and your principles. Yeah.
Yep, agreed. And you're not shaming yourself. You're not really down on yourself. It's simply an invitation. And you think about it, people do respond better to being invited to something than being told to do something. And so when you think about inviting yourself, it just puts you in a better position to say, yeah, you know what? think I like me. I remember succeeding in this area before. I remember being on a good path before. Maybe I can just come on back. And so the invitation is just to come on back.
So let's put that as maybe a closer to this, Gary. Another giveaway here, even like a concrete example. So you're working. There's a listener there that's either getting reactive at work, or they're about to react to a situation, or they're filled with that negative self-talk. If you could take over their brain for a second right now, what happens next? When I feel it happening in my body and I feel my fists clenching, what's next for me?
Well, it's a very fascinating thought because, and I know this sounds like I'm going off on a rabbit trail, but I'm really not. So the typical definition of mindset, I think, we're widely accepted, is a conditioned set of beliefs that drive behavior. But that's not good enough for me. Of course, it's not, right? But it took me 7 years to figure out the equation I'm just about to give you. And so what you're talking about is an experience. So it starts with an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say you've had some type of negative experience. You may have initiated it. It may have happened to you.
Okay.
And so in brackets, after the word experience, you have thoughts and feelings. Now I have thoughts and feelings associated with that experience. They might be positive. They might be negative. They could be harmful. They could be great. It doesn't really matter, but just that we have them. We have thoughts and feelings associated with that experience. But then we have my response. And sometimes our response is conscious and sometimes it's subconscious. So sometimes we are very intentional about choosing our responses and sometimes we're not. For example, if something happened to you as a 6-year-old, you probably weren't too mindful of your response. You just responded in the way that you did, or you reacted.
Reacted probably, yeah.
Yeah, you reacted to it. So, but as you get older and hopefully more mature, then you get to choose your responses.
Yes.
And sort of like the gold at the rainbow in this entire equation is you do get to choose your responses to things.
Yes.
You can be in a terrible experience or have a terrible experience that you have thoughts and feelings about, but how you choose to respond is everything. But if you put all of that together, now you form a belief about yourself. So that's where beliefs come from. Mm-hmm. They come from experiences that you have thoughts and feelings about that you've chosen a response to. And now you have a belief, and mostly about yourself. And if you put all of that together, you have a mindset.
You have a mindset.
It doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. It always must result in a new and improved behavior. And this is what Andy McKay from the Seattle Mariners taught me, was that, Gary, you can't stop at mindset, because a mindset always results in some type of new and improved behavior. When, if you think about it, a new and improved behavior is like a new experience. And now you're running through the cycle over again. Now you're giving yourself a new and improved experience with new and improved thoughts and feelings, with a new and improved response, with a new and improved belief about yourself, which is a new and improved mindset, which results in new and improved behavior, actions and behaviors. And then you just keep cycling it around. That is how you build a mindset.
Yeah, that's such a perfect ending. And I just pictured myself choosing my response. Responsibility means you have the ability to respond. Choosing my response. And when I do that well, of course, it's a new belief in me. Like I've got this, right? I've got this, and you've got what it takes. And then the new behavior. That's a perfect place to end, Gary. Gary, I knew this would be fun, and it was. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. Thank you so much for having me, Dave.
Where can people find you?
Most of my clients are on Instagram, so that's where I am. I'm not a social media freak or whatever, but my clients are there, so that's where I am. So I am under Elite Mindset with a blue verification dot, because there's other accounts that are Elite Mindset. But if you look for that blue verification dot, I'll be on there, Elite Mindset. And then people can find me at elitemindsetnation.com. And I do send out a free Monday morning mindset text just to get people's head straight for the week, and it revolves around leadership and mental performance. So
I love it's a Monday morning text, not a Monday morning Instagram.
That's right.
Ruin your day.
That's right.
All the things you're not doing. Doom scroll. Gary Chupik, Chupik. This was great. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Leading with Curiosity. Please share, follow, and rate the show so that other leaders can make positive change in the world. Connect with Nate at nateleslie.ca. And remember, the brain behaves very differently when encouraged to think rather than told to listen.